Hello and welcome back to the Tiberium Armory series. Today we're going to be talking about Cyborg soldiers, Nod's war-ending human superweapons. The Brotherhood of Nod has many weapons at its disposal: nuclear missiles, tiberium detonating rockets, and gases that mutate a living thing into terrible, nigh unkillable viceroids. But its most deadly weapons are those of its biomechanical division. The chief among these weapons in the division are Cabal, Legion, and the Cyborg soldiers from the Second Tiberium War. Cabal and Legion are for later videos, however, and today we are talking about the single most devastating weapon system ever developed in the Tiberium universe, the Mark of Cain. Now, why would I begin this video by calling the Mark of Cain the greatest weapon in the universe, a universe filled with nuclear weapons, black hole controlling bugs, and ion cannons the size of small mountains? It is because that while most of those things are indeed instructive, the purpose of war, at least in this universe, is to take ground and use it to develop one's own nation. If you nuke a city, you can't use most of its infrastructure for decades. Conquest means not merely just destroying an enemy utterly, but controlled violence for a purpose: to take things the enemy has and make them work for you. In this way, nuclear weapons aren't all that good in a war. What's better is the Mudfoot, the infantryman that kicks in the door to the bunker and sits on it until no one is left to drive him out. The Mark of Cain are a perfect representation of this principle, expressed in the most inhumane, efficient form possible. Like the Borg of Star Trek fame, Marked are robotic warriors following a central AI commander bent on bringing destruction to their enemy. But unlike the Borg, they are also mutants, victims of terrible experimentations by the Brotherhood's bioscientists bent on melding the brute strength and durability of Tiberium-based life with the flexibility and complete ruthlessness of artificial soldiers. Uncountable legions were tested on and manufactured with the sole purpose of defeating the armies of the vast vestiges of the bygone era. The Mark were built originally as a solution to the problems Cain perceived lost him the First Tiberium War. They were a result of already ongoing Tiberium research, like the ones that Nick Havoc Parker found on his adventure through Nod facilities during his tours. Originally, they were just mutants, not ones transformed into viceroids by exposure to Tiberium, but honed into perfect specimens immune to the effects of the green crystal and capable of physical feats far beyond that of baseline humanity. These designs, however, would turn out to be failures, so it was a rare breed indeed that did not have these changes occur to them and go mad from the pain and twisting of their bodies. So, after the First War's conclusion, Cain sought another method. Born from his forays into biomechanical computers, the mechanical Mark of Cain were melded with machines from stock taken from forgotten populations, and were slave to the coordinating intelligence of Cabal, who deployed them onto the battlefield to devastating effect. Cybernetic warriors followed orders to the letter and at the instant of command, and never stopped to contemplate the morality of their actions. In short, they were the perfect soldiers. However, as the events of Firestorm showed us once again, Cain is not infallible. Cabal proved to be an unworthy vessel for the vast intelligence bestowed upon him by Cain, and rebelled, only to be stopped at the cost of the entire military apparatus remaining to both Nod and GDI at the time. The soldiers were perfect, yes, but their commander was not, and over the years, as he recovered, Cain contemplated this as well. His solution was Legion, the greatest of all the artificial beings, composed of both Cain's consciousness and the remnants of Cabal. Artificially limited by design to not be as ambitious as his forebearer, Legion performed miraculous feats to rise Nod back to the height of their power, and Cain woke the legions of the Mark of Cain once again. As things stand today in the world of Tiberium-threatened Earth, Nod and GDI stand as ever on the precipice of conflict. Nod's forces largely composed of the terrible cybernetic demons known as the Mark of Cain. After this history lesson, I will move on to describing the Mark of Cain and their method of warfare. Each Mark of Cain stood around 7 feet tall when unaugmented, and 8 when in with its armor. On its body, it wore inch-thick metal plating covering most of its form, which, coupling with its incredibly thick musculature, could withstand bullet impacts of up to 7.62mm rounds. Each one was capable of moving regularly at speeds of 30 miles per hour and possibly higher, with a cyborg commando was capable of even more miraculous feats. These could leap 10 feet in the air, and when coordinating with their AI handler, coordinate their targeting data with other units nearby instantly, allowing for coordination across entire fronts of battlefields with no loss in functionality. They never sleep, they need but consume little, and heal in the merest presence of tiberium. In short, they are total monsters. Initially, they were only armed with a pulse rifle, Vulcan cannon, or flamethrower, but usually went equipped with a pulse rifle. Pulse rifles are pulsed energy weapons that can take several different forms, including rail and coil guns, and in some cases lasers. This means, for the purposes of this video, there are 3 possible weapons that could be used for this. But I will say that the Mark of Cain in this early period used anti-infantry lasers that could be powered from generators in their suit and only had to be as deadly as it would take to disable infantry. This is much more likely because although rail and coil guns are powerful, they require ammunition, therefore continuous resupply. And with the advanced nature of Nod's laser weapons, I think the logic works for itself. After this period, in the Third Tiberium War, they were upgraded with Nod's Spitfire technology for even greater damage potential. Individually, each warrior was strong enough to pick up the front end of a car by themselves, so there are no slouches in melee combat either. Armed with no obvious methods of fighting in this way, they often made use of their armored bulk and heavy laser arm to bludgeon the brain cases of their meatbag enemies. All of this made them combatants to be feared individually, but the fact that they were coordinated from one position, from one mind, meant that they were far more effective than any other fighting force on the planet, easily able to contend with both GDI and Nod together and fighting as one. But how did Cain and his scientists do it? How did they produce such incredible results in infusing machines and organic materials? Well, it is by the production of the man-machine interface. Similar to the Mind Impulse unit of 40K, this device is an even more complicated version of something that we already make use of today in cutting-edge science. Extremely advanced prosthetics make use of nerve endings in your body that when connected, allow you to send information from the computers in the prosthetic to your brain, even allow you to feel the limb, much like your former one. This essentially is what the man-machine interface is. In the case of a Titan or Avatar Walker pilot, many of these pilots' nerve endings, through invasive surgery, are accessed through tubes embedded in the body that connect to nerve clusters. These clusters are then redirected to the machine input, suppressing the movement of the limbs while connected, and allowing the person to move the limbs of the vehicle as if it were his or her own body. Further, the right implants attached to the brain, Avatar pilots are able to see what their cameras see as if it were their own bodies, giving them incredible control over their machines. For the Mark of Cain, however, this is different. Nearly all of the nerve endings in the Mark's body are slave to the machine, only leaving parts of its brain active that process orders and targeting data, and that allow it to move appropriately. Essentially, the human in the body is brain dead. Their nerve cluster is used to run targeting algorithms faster than any human mind could respond to normally. Theoretically, no part of the person's humanity remains, but this science was one on the absolute bleeding edge when it was terminated, and was not in any way humane. It's quite possible that each of the marked are at some level aware of what they are doing and in constant, unending pain. But the more hopeful scientists tell us that since the brain scans that they are given by Cain's elite handpicked staff read as no activity, that surely must mean that there is no activity. Cain is the perfect man after all. He never lies. A more jaded man might point out that the project was done in secret because of the totally reasonable reaction that most of Nod's subjects would have to it. So it wouldn't surprise anyone as if they were still conscious, but I wouldn't worry about that particular person. He has already been reported to the nearest commissar. This has been a video on the Mark of Cain, a force that, had Legion been in command instead of Cabal, might have conquered the world for Cain nearly single-handedly, and today intimidate the world as they march among the streets of Nod-controlled Yellow Zones, trumpeting the word of the Messiah. This is Game Master Karakin, signing off.